stick some Swedish fish in front of me, don't get in my way.
Swedish fish.
I could, the big boxes you can get at Walmart that have like 500 in it.
What?
Me and my friend, we used to do trivia nights, sports trivia nights, and we killed a whole box of Swedish fish in one night. Swedish fish and Mountain Dew. We like almost OD'd.
That's too much sugar. That would.
You
probably woke up the next day feeling like not good.
I'm getting sugar sweats just from thinking about that. It's awful.
I just keep thinking Red 40. Like, what is that?
UB40.
UB40.
Red wine.
Like, people are like, I don't know why I feel crappy. I'm like, do you read ingredients on the food that you eat? Because
some of it's just eating bad in general.
There's a lot of fillers up in there.
I've been there.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about
Brendan's week.
All right, Brendan. We've got to fill the people in.
You've been talking about this game for weeks and all the trash
talk. So sad. I feel so bad.
It sucked. Something like me and my best friend would go run routes and like plan like routes to throw to each other for like 3 months. And the day came and it was frozen mud with snow on top. So it wasn't anything you could plant your feet in. It was
football.
It was like playing football on pavement with cleats on.
See, what I hear though is lack of preparation. You weren't taking the balls in the water, in the jug of water, and practicing the snaps.
Yeah, did you not watch Rocky? Did you not see how he trained?
Yeah,
I mean, he was training for a boxing fight, and he was still like, remember when he was pulling that big old, what was that wheelbarrow thing? But it was a big wooden one, and they were all in it. And he's like,
that's Rocky 4.
Yeah.
You got to rent out an ice rink and practice running routes on the ice. Come on, man! If you take this so seriously,
yeah,
we're gonna train you for next year. We'll make a video.
I still score like 5 touchdowns.
We'll be like dumping ice out here on Wayne Street and letting it freeze and be like, all right, go, run.
Hockey.
Run the ball.
The thing that sucks the most about it is like you lose, and like the same thing with Ohio State, Michigan, you lose, and you have to wait an entire year to have a chance to like atone for it. So, and then in Ohio State's case, I've been waiting since 2019, and I came very close to tears after that loss.
I got to ask you, Jack. We were talking about this the other day before you came into the office. Ohio State still obviously has a chance at a national championship. And I asked Brendan, I said, would you rather win against Michigan but have a season where you don't even make the playoff?
Yeah.
Like you beat Michigan. Or lose to Michigan like I just did the other day and go on to win the national championship. He would take the beat Michigan and not even make the playoffs.
Seems Michigan's a lot happier than Ohio State is right now.
Well, because they have nothing to play for this year.
But they beat their rival. That's
but I'm saying nothing bigger to play for. They weren't going to the CFP. They're going to have a middling bowl at best.
BBVA Compass Bowl.
no matter what.
Eastern Kentucky.
That was the biggest game for Ohio State. They could play in the national championship, and the national championship isn't as big as.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree.
You're eating what the college football playoff and ESPN are feeding you in that case.
How many national championships has Ohio State won in our lifetime? It's what, 3?
Mine 2.
2. Okay. Those are more national championships than most programs have had in the last 40 years. That program is they're playing for national championships every year. They're not playing to beat Michigan. That program is built to play for national championships. Yes, Michigan matters.
The fan base doesn't get as angry whenever they lose in the playoffs or the national championship as they do against Michigan. So therefore, the Michigan game is viewed as more important than the playoff.
All I know is this. I think back to my high school days when I was, a top blue chip recruit.
Almost held it.
I had to laugh. If I'm being courted by all these schools and I see a big time program beat their rival, but finish the season 6-6, and I see another program that is recruiting me lose to their rival, but they're consistently in the picture for a national championship, that holds a lot of weight for me.
Yeah, that's now granted, Michigan won the national championship last year, so that does they do have that feather in their cap a little bit. But man, if we're ranking, I get it's a rivalry game. I get it's one of the biggest college football games on the calendar every year. But in 3 weeks, in a week when the CFP rankings are out, if Ohio State is in the top 12 and they're getting a chance to play for a playoff game, you can redeem both of these losses this season if you make a run. Ohio State is very much in this race. Like, that is a wide open top 12
And
this
if
year.
they're not, then they fire the coach, and then things
Potentially.
look up.
Meanwhile, Penn State's sitting here like, okay, we lost to Ohio State, still got a chance at a national title.
You got Pitt, who started the season 7-0, and they're 7-5 now.
My roommate is going to Indy for the championship game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the tickets are like $35, so he's going out there with one of his friends. He's driving out there and then driving back. He's staying out there. I told him, I was like, you better look at the weather on the way there.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to get stuck in a snowstorm.
It's brutal out there some winters. Brendan, I am sorry that your weekend sucked. I'm
Same.
sorry that it continued today with losing in NCAA football.
And us
before
making
work.
you rehash it all. We're
is good,
sorry.
Though. It's
Or
good.
it could have been even worse if on that last play of the game, Justin Fields is going for the first down to clinch it for the Steelers. He fumbles. The Bengals pick it up and run it back for a touchdown, kick the extra point, and beat the Steelers 45.
And then the Eagles go on and lose to the Ravens a couple hours later. At least the NFL saved your spirits a little bit.
Today's episode is sponsored by Robert Stevens Custom Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting Eye on Sports. Rock and roll.
We're going to talk some high school wrestling and swimming here. Both sports begin this week. And Brendan, you worked on a number of swimming stories that will appear in tomorrow's paper. What are your thoughts on some of the top local athletes hitting the water this season?
So, you know me, the Butler Eagle swimming expert. I really enjoyed going up to Pitt and covering that swim meet and having a 9-hour day and then walking back to park a ticket last year. Okay, anyways.
Just
with
so
that,
much bad around Brendan today.
With that,
You do like a seance.
there are a lot of talented swimmers, especially on the girls' side, that are returning this year. Pair of sisters, and also Gianna Lavarini of Knock, who has really stood out and recently committed to Pitt. The sisters are the Vance sisters of Butler, who are really good. And then the Freeport sisters, their last names are Schreckendost.
Yes.
Yeah, and their mom is a coach. I got a chance to talk to most of the coaches around here about what they thought they had come back. And a lot of good feature stories, I think, are going to come out of these teams and what they've got. So people kind of think of swimming reporting, and they think of
Brendan Howe?
this
Brendan
kid.
Howe.
This kid swam this fast in the pool, and how did you swim that fast, and blah blah blah. Like, no, there's gonna be some really interesting stories, I think, that come out of this season and what we're able to cover.
I actually worked on the wrestling this year, and those stories appeared in today's paper. And there's a number of wrestlers who could have really big seasons. For the full list, I think I listed 12. Check out today's paper or online. But I'm going to mention a few here. Obviously, any discussion about Butler County wrestling right now with in terms of guys who have a chance to do something big this year has to begin with Santino Sloboda, the junior at Butler. He's going to wrestle at 127 pounds this year. He's committed to Pitt. He's 78-6 in his career. He won a Whitbill title last year and placed 6th in the state. And Scott Stoner, Butler's coach, told me he has not lost a tournament yet in his varsity career. And that's 2 seasons worth of tournaments he has not lost. Another Butler wrestler, Case Chop, he's just 7 wins shy of 100 for his varsity career, so he's going after that milestone. Wyatt Foster at Knock, he's a senior. He was 24-5 last year. And he was just 3 pins shy of breaking the program record for pins in the season when he suffered a season-ending injury. And Wyatt, I hope you have a good year. I don't want to end your career just yet.
I just hope he walks out onto the mat every meet this year with that sword that we have from his homecoming night.
Yes, I saw that picture.
Was
That's
such a good
awesome.
photo, and I found it, and I was like, this is going to be in the paper somewhere, and it worked. I love it. I hope he has that framed in his house.
So obviously, Wyatt's hoping to have a deep postseason run, but on the way there, he wants to break the Knock single-season pin record. So good luck to him in that regard. And another guy I thought I'd mention is Angelo Emilio. He went 21-6 last year for North Catholic. He lost in very early on in the Whitbill tournament, but obviously he's looking to have a better year when it comes to the postseason this year. So good luck to all the wrestlers. on the mat this year for all of our teams, and we definitely have to mention this on the girls' side. Last year we had Seneca Valley and Butler who had varsity girls teams. Just within the last 2 months, Knock and Slippery Rock both have added varsity girls wrestling programs. Knock has 8 wrestlers on its roster, including leaders Miranda Lejevic, who is ranked 19th in the country at 95 pounds by USA Wrestling, and Brayley Ireland, who went an impressive 12-10 last year against all-male competition. Now they got a girls team. She's going to be wrestling against the girls this year. We'll see how they do. Slippery Rock, technically they have a varsity program now. It's only 3 wrestlers, though. They're all freshmen, and to get them experience this year, they're going to be wrestling down at the junior high level this year. Next year, the Rockets should have at least 7 girls wrestling varsity. So, girls wrestling is just kind of spread like wildfire around the country the last few years. Pennsylvania is kind of leading that charge. There's, I believe, 242 schools in Pennsylvania now that have high school girls wrestling programs, and Slippery Rock and Knock, the latest in Butler County to add them. But I got to imagine, Jake, they're not going to be the last.
No, I mean, Mars makes sense to add a program at some point soon with how big they are. I mean, you can't you got to think that if Slippery Rock and Knock are putting together teams, which they're not small schools, but they're not big ones either. You got to think that some of these other programs, Carson City and Freeport and some others, would start to build some teams here soon. Seneca Valley, forgot about them actually. And Seneca Valley's got a girls flag football team that's going to be coming when PIAA when the sanctioning starts with that in a year. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what we can do coverage wise with that this year because it's growing.
It absolutely is. Jake, you've worked at a number of newspapers before coming to Butler. I just wanted to get your take on how big high school swing and high school wrestling were at those papers that you were employed at before.
Wrestling has never been bigger than Pennsylvania compared to Kentucky and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got a good wrestling scene, but it feels a little bit more. There's pockets of where it's really strong and really popular, and then there's other parts of the state that don't care much about it. That's somewhat like Pennsylvania has that too. The Philadelphia area does not follow wrestling the way it does football and basketball. But I think there's more of a geographic spread in Pennsylvania of wrestling fandom and wrestling athletes that are really good. The state is super deep. We have kids that go to Iowa and Pitt and Penn State and all these other superpowers in NCAA. So it's there. Nothing, at least from what I have seen, beats PA wrestling. Swimming has, hate to say it, it's always been kind of the third wheel in the winter season. You have some good athletes, and we had a couple that would go to Penn State or other schools when we were covering stuff in Carlisle. And the one advantage we had there was Bucknell was an hour or so away from us, so we could go cover the state meet a couple times, which super long days, very, very tiring, but kind of this weirdly in the trenches week of fun. Like all the reporters and photographers that were there for multiple days, by the end of it, you all kind of feel like you went to battle and you're just kind of delirious by day 3 or 4 and start making dumber and dumber jokes, and everyone's kind of like bloodshot eyes. You're getting 6 hours of sleep if you're lucky, staying in a crappy motel. And, you know, I had some fun with that. We did have some good swimmers in our area, so it was fun to cover it occasionally. It was nice to be in a very humid and warm space in the middle of February winters, so I liked that part of it. The wrestling side of it, Central PA was so deep. Carlisle was a middling team, but they'd have some good wrestlers, but nothing like Cumberland Valley, nothing like Central Dauphin was outside of our coverage area, but we ran into them all the time because the schools that we covered played them within the mid-pen, and those two were gigantic Goliath type programs year in, year out. Big Spring, Bowling Springs always put up 2A contenders, or Big Spring was in 3A some years, and it was a little scary. Not gonna lie, like it's way more intense than football games are in terms of like the way fans react. I sometimes thought it went way overboard, but it is cool to cover a district championship or a state championship, and the one-on you're seeing it's why I like postseason coverage a little bit more than regular season. Regular season, you get to do like a little bit more of the fun stuff and featurey stuff and find the stories that are out there during the year. But playoff basketball, playoff anything, we know it's you whittle down the teams, and you're starting to get the best players, the best athletes going against each other. And wrestling is the ultimate, at least at the high school level, the ultimate like best versus best scenario that you can get, and you start to get some really, really intense matches. There was one, this was 5 or 6 years ago. We had 2 kids, Donovan Ball at Cedar Cliff, and I'm gonna blank on the kid's name from Northern York. They and Mallory would kick my butt over this because she covered both of them for years and knows these kids by heart at this point. They faced each other 3 times, and they were. Ball was a senior, and the Northern kid was a junior. They had faced each other a little bit in previous years, and everything kind of set up in the early on in the season that these 2 kids looked like ones that were going to compete for the district championship against each other and would probably make it to states if a couple breaks went their way. So they faced each other in the district sectional tournament, and the junior from Northern wins, and then they face each other in districts, and the junior from Northern wins again. And it's just setting up of this whole, okay, the senior's got to win the last one. He's got to win the last one. And nope, he loses the state championship in like a 3-2 match or something.
Championship.
Yeah. They made it to the state championship against each other, lost like a 3-2 match to the kid from Northern, who it's killing me right now. I can't remember his name. But Donovan Ball, that was a really fun rivalry to watch from a distance. I was always editing the story that you'd said in.
You might not remember his name, but we do know he was a polar bear.
He was.
He was a polar bear. Northern York Polar Bear is one of the best nicknames I've heard for high schools.
So good. We need to just do an episode one year or one of these weeks where we just pull up like the best nicknames from around the country and just rank them.
Jake, you just mentioned a minute ago about things getting out of hand with fans. We're going to talk about things getting out of hand on the field here. We're going to go back to this past Saturday, rivalry weekend when it comes to college football. Brendan can't wait to talk about this. So on Saturday, a number of altercations took place after college football rivalry games. A University of Michigan player, this is after the Wolverines defeated the Buckeyes, Ohio State, at the Buckeyes home field. He retrieved a maize and blue flag inside the tunnel after the Wolverines win, and he began parading around the field with the flag before an Ohio State player ripped it from his grasp and tore the flag from its pole, inciting a brawl between both teams. Similar scenes to this happened at the conclusion of the games between rivals Clemson and South Carolina, North Carolina State, UNC, and Florida State. In fact, the Gators and Seminoles engaged in a brawl, and both head coaches were seen shouting at each other. Just nice, good college fun. Have the kids sit down and watch a football game Thanksgiving weekend. That's what it's all about, right? All of these incidents began with players from the winning team planning or attempting to plant their school's flag at midfield of their rival's stadium. Who is to blame here? Does the losing team need to grow a thicker skin, or does the winning team have to have a little bit more class after defeating their rival? Brendan, since you are at the epicenter of this, Brendan's a big Ohio State fan, what are your thoughts on what occurred at Ohio Stadium after the game on Saturday?
So my dad and I shut the Ohio State-Michigan game off after the 4th down. They didn't convert. Laura think that's funny. Well, we shut it off, and I was just like, I'm leaving. Like, I'll see you later, Dad. And yeah. But then my friends are texting in a group chat, and they're like, there's a brawl. And then Bailey's texting me because I told her, I was like, my day is ruined. I just like got in the car, and she texted me, and she's like, players are getting pepper sprayed. And I was like, okay, like I guess I got to see what's happening here. So I pulled it up like Twitter because people instantly clip things and put them on Twitter. So I'm seeing what happened. It wasn't as bad as it sounded. I mean, yes, it was a brawl. Yeah, there was pepper spray. But I think I see both sides. It's like Ohio State had 60 minutes to win that game. Somehow saw the energy after the game to fight. So what does that say about the team that lost if you saw the energy to fight after losing? Should kind of look in the mirror there. But also, if you beat a team, especially in the way Michigan did, you were a 23-point underdog, I think it was.
21, something like that, yeah.
3 touchdowns, it doesn't matter. You win that game, you have, why do you need to plant the flag? Like, you won, you proved your point, you don't need to go plant the flag. That's just like piling on that point. And I was listening to...
I just keep seeing thought bubbles over Derek's head.
I listened to Bomani Jones' podcast, like every podcast episode he has, and he made a point that just because you win doesn't mean you're allowed to do whatever you want after you win, especially if you're in the other person's stadium or like if you beat someone. The way he said it, I can't repeat on our show, but it made me laugh. But they were just rubbing it in at that point. But I also think it was embarrassing for Ohio State to fight after you just lost. So
it is embarrassing. I think my only point is that sometimes it's hard to stand by when they start to lose, but it's like seeing it to the end, right? I don't know. It's not like you're a coach and you're gonna like review the tape and give them feedback on what they were doing wrong, right? Or
I usually
how
don't
they
shut
could have
football
played
games
better.
off early. I've never shut a Steelers game off early, but I was so annoyed and so like hurt that they lost that I knew that they were just Ohio State was out of timeouts. Michigan was gonna kneel down once it's gonna be over. I was like, there's no point in watching this. It's just drawing out a heartbreaking experience. So why do it?
Derek, what are you thinking?
So many sessions of therapy for Brendan just from this weekend alone.
I'm gonna go. We're gonna get to you in a second. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. But I
don't know what that
I know
means
people
about
are
me.
gonna roll their eyes at my first sentence here, but it is a sign of the times. Exactly what happened the other day, where all those games that I mentioned, it was the road team winning over a rival, and they tried to plant their flag in the middle of the field. Beating a team on the field isn't enough for a lot of players these days. They feel the need to supplement the victory by doing something they know is going to be captured by fans and people on their phones with videos and pictures and posted on social media. Class is often talked about in sports, but I think in a lot of cases, when it comes time to display it, players decide to go the other route, and they would much rather say or do something that they know is going to get them attention, good or bad. In their mind, any attention is good. Even if it's bad attention, it's still the limelight, so to speak, on them, and that's what they crave. It's
not rubbing it in, right?
So I do apologize for how I treated you up in Armco this summer when I caught 3 touchdown passes. Like, Jake, what are your thoughts here?
I could go a couple different routes with this, and I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I have a problem with the way some of the assistant coaches were getting into fights about this stuff. Like, you're supposed to be – it's one thing for a 20-year-old, and not to, like, say 20-year-olds should get away with it, but it's one thing as a 20-year-old, you just played the game. You were the one that was – we always equate football to war. And if we think about war, well, it's like this adrenaline rush and this need for combat and violence that a lot of other sports don't quite have. And you don't really see this with, like, baseball or basketball as often, where at the end of it, that euphoric sense of winning is so much more intense because of the laying your physical body on the line in a way that sport requires more than a lot of others, not all, but a lot of others. There's this understandable release of excitement for winning. The adults in that room should know better. They're the ones that are not laying their bodies on the line in that moment, and they need to be the bigger people and keep their kids in line. I shouldn't say kids. They're 18 and up. They're players in line a little bit more. At the same time, though, like, I think planting your flag on the field should be a harmless bit of taunting. It's a flag. It's the whole I climbed the mountain, I got there first. There. It wouldn't work as well if Michigan planted the flag in their own stadium. No crap. But they do it at Ohio State. It's like, yeah, we own this field for today. Like, I get that. If Ohio State did it to Michigan in reverse
Ohio
circumstances,
State wouldn't do that to Michigan. Ohio State
is a classy
wiped
organization.
the floor with Michigan for a decade. And
Ohio State's a classy organization that has never done or said or hired anyone controversial.
Their coach has never punched a player on the sidelines. Woody Hayes.
None of these programs are like saints. They're not. They all have jerks in them. They have good people in them. They have people in the middle. They hire good people one year. They hire bad people the next year. They bring in good players and bad players, and I'm talking personality wise. We shouldn't hold them up to the standard of like morality necessarily. Yeah, I want the players that I root for or watch to be good people because I don't like rooting for jerks, but at the same time, humans are humans, and there's a big range of who we all are. And I think this is largely harmless, and we get a little bit too bent out of shape about this stuff. But
I can see where you're coming from, but I know you would rather Ohio State fight during the game and win the game,
which is fair.
But at the same time, when you got somebody coming out, I mean, to me that act, Michigan, all the teams that tried to plant the flag, South Carolina, North Carolina State, and Florida, they have to know by doing that.
Oh, it started with what? Was it Manziel or was it
Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield planting the A&M flag.
Well, yeah, I think that was after he grabbed his crotch after scoring a touchdown. But by doing that, if you're one of the players on the team that's trying to do that, plant the flag, you have to know that players from the other side aren't just going to say, "Oh, see ya, we'll see you next year." I mean, obviously, you talked about emotion.
Yeah.
About how it's this, just brimming over. It's like we just put our bodies on the line. We won this huge game. At the same time, there's a team that loses. They're obviously frustrated, and they see an act like that, and they kind of took their aggression and their frustration over losing the game out on the act of somebody trying to plant a flag on their field.
And you'll notice I didn't say that what Ohio State did in quote-unquote retaliating was necessarily bad or immoral. My whole view is like the act of planting a flag. Like I get the metaphor of that. It makes sense.
We own you.
Yeah.
At least for this one day.
At least for this one day. And it's harmless. It's not like they went and planted the flag in someone's chest and killed a player. I mean, like that would be a much different situation. I don't know. When we have, like, I remember very vividly Temple Villanova basketball game in 2012. Villanova lobbied the Big East to not allow Temple in. This was during the last big wave of college realignment. Temple was trying to get into the Big East because their basketball team had historically been pretty good. And Villanova was like, no, we do not want them in because they will be able to recruit against us. Oh, no. Like, how dare they be able to recruit against us in Philadelphia? So they lobbied successfully. And, like, a week after this story broke, Villanova's playing Temple at Temple. And Temple is unranked at the time. I think Nova's number 4 in the nation or something like that. And the student section is just rolling out banners the entire game, just ripping the coach, ripping the program. Nothing that was like completely crossing the line. But as fans, we all sit there and go, hey, that's funny. Like, good for them. They're getting revenge on this other team. They're talking crap about this other team. But then we see like a player go and plant a flag on the field and we all lose our minds. And it's like that the players can't act the way that we act. And I'm not saying that the way that fans always act is great either. But sometimes we do the things that we then rip 20-year-old athletes for, and we think that we're cool, but we think that when they do it, they're these petulant, pathetic people, and like, people need to be fired and people need to be arrested, like whatever ridiculous claims get thrown out there. Like, to me, it's like, okay, a banner rolled during the game is acceptable, but a flag in the field is crossing the line. The tee down or the horns down thing for Texas is like, we got to lose our minds about that. Like, all this stuff is ridiculous. It's a game.
You went to Temple. You remember, you've seen shots on YouTube or TV of John Chaney threatening John Calipari.
Oh, a million times.
No, you don't condone that, do you?
No. I mean, especially there, that's adults in the room. And that was also, 15 minutes after the game? It's like,
it was like literally 30 years ago.
Yeah. And then, 25 years later, everyone starts to sound, look at how just weird John Chaney was. No, the man actually tried to really hurt someone. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like he threatened him with a chair. Apparently, he grabbed the chair and approached him.
Marcus Camby must have had a big game against Temple that day. That's my thing.
I was in an elevator with, I want to say it was Lavoy Allen, my senior year of college, after Temple had blown an NCAA tournament game, and I think this was Allen, and he was responsible in a lot of ways, not entirely for, like, obviously any loss is not on one single player, but he missed like a ton of open shots. And I texted a couple friends, I should be like, hey, you sucked, and just like walk out the elevator. But I was like, yeah, like I'm thinking that in my head, but I also see a guy who's 6'8" and 100 pounds heavier than me, and I will not leave that elevator in one piece. No. Like, I can think it and be like, it's fan talk, but I'm not going to act on it because I have self-control.
There comes a time in games like that where like there's 10 minutes left, right? And you know that because Ohio State got the pick 6 on the goal line, you knew if they didn't get that first down on third down that something bad was going to happen. You can tell 7-8 minutes ahead. If they don't do this, you can just tell from the momentum something bad is going to happen in the next few minutes. And then it happened against Michigan State in 2015. It happened Steelers games. You ever get that bad feeling in your stomach where you don't get this play and it's
Laura, you should have had the Michigan fight song playing.
oh my god. You should not.
How do we feel about Penn State, Oregon, Big Ten championship? That's funny.
I as much as it pains me to see my friends happy, I want Penn State to beat Oregon because Oregon is a West Coast outsider that's not really a Big Ten team. No matter, they might be Big Ten in name, but they are not a Big Ten team.
You see, there's 2 teams in the Pac-12 this year.
Yeah.
Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah, and they played, and that's like the championship.
Yeah, Oregon State won the Pac-12 championship, even though they have 5 wins this year.
I want to see Oregon get knocked down a peg too. Like I don't like that they came into the Big Ten. They're the only undefeated team in the nation. It's like, come on. I actually
too seriously. I like comedy.
I was talking last night to my friends that I want Penn State and Ohio State to play in the playoff because they're like Ohio State's in shambles. Ohio State, they're a broken team. Let's see Penn State beat them because they haven't.
I know.
I would love to see them beat Penn State twice in one season because my friends wouldn't talk to me for like a month.
Well, he has referred. I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. He has referred to Penn State as a mediocre college football program.
Wow.
Now, how many Division 1A teams are there? 140 roughly.
Yeah.
150. Mediocre means basically as bad as you are good. So we're talking 70th, 75th ranked team in the country. When's the last time Penn State finished the season 70th in the country?
Post Sandusky scandal.
That's not mediocre. Just because they couldn't beat Ohio State, there's a lot of teams that can't beat Ohio State, except Michigan. I'm sorry, but that doesn't mean that you're a mediocre college football program.
No, although I still like watching sad Penn State. Sad Penn State's fun.
Yeah, I don't because
I just don't understand why kids in the WPIAL and in Pennsylvania they get all these offers from USC to Miami to Tennessee and. Of all places, you want to go to a place that they have 2 different uniforms where they have a corny "We Are" chant in the stadium, and it smells like
what's wrong with 2 different uniforms?
Would
you rather play for Maryland where they wear a different uniform every single week? This uniform's so cool, we're not going to ever wear it again. That's basically what Maryland and Oregon does the same thing.
If you go to Penn State when it is warm out, it smells like a farm.
So does most of Big Ten football, just to be fair.
Not Columbus.
Yeah, it smells like farms around here. I mean, what's your point?
Like Wisconsin's
Do you
also
want to smell farms?
I do. He doesn't like Pennsylvania. He doesn't like.
No,
I love Pennsylvania.
I love cows.
We don't live in Pennsylvania. This is a city. I might have chickens in the yard next to mine, but
there are literally chickens across the street at this house right here. There's a rooster, and they walk out into the road, and I watch them foraging.
Ion Sports Podcast is proudly participating in Movember's annual fundraising campaign, which encourages people to sign up at Movember.com, grow a mustache, move to commit to walking or running 60 miles, host a virtual event, or mow your own way.
Mow Your Own Way is a choose-your-own-adventure activity and allows people to pick how they want to support Movember. The new challenge could include riding your motorcycle across the country or doing 100 burpees and allows supporters to participate and not be limited by what they want to do.
All the support will change the face of men's health, raising funds and awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer.
The Ion Sports Podcast team, along with Butler Eagle Sports writers, have a goal to raise $1,000 for the month of Movember. The charity raises funds to deliver innovative breakthrough research and support programs that enable men to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. Committed to disrupting the status quo, millions have joined the movement, helping to fund over 1,250 projects around the world.
In addition to tackling key health issues faced by men, Movember is working to encourage men to stay healthy in all areas of their life, with a focus on men staying socially connected and becoming more open to discussing their health in significant moments in their lives.
The charity's vision is to have everlasting impact on the face of men's health. To donate or learn more, please visit Movember.com. Movember is a registered 501c3 charity. To donate to our fundraising goal, click the link in our story or bio. Help us at Alter Eagles Ion Sports reach our goal of $1,000 towards Movember for men's health.
on behalf of myself, Eagle Sports writer and host Derek Pito.
I am Eagle Sports writer Brendan Howe.
And I'm Eagle Sports editor Jake Murda Adams.
Thank you.
Sad Brendan is less fun, Brendan.
I was thinking between two different questions here, Derek. I figured both of them could be gimmies. I'm not going to go much further in what I'm saying here because I don't want to give it away. So, Derek, who is the player in NFL history with the most games of 3+ receiving touchdowns?
That's an interesting one.
It's something to chew on. I get a few minutes to think about it, and then we're going to go to Beyond Brennan. Or Beyond Butler. I got it wrong for the second straight week.
I think that's the third.
We're going to go on to Beyond Brennan with Butler.
Welcome to Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County that relates to sports, whether that be professionally or collegiately. This week, I want to talk about the Heisman race, which all of college football is kind of thinking about this earlier. There's not as many stars as it seemed there were when I was younger. Maybe that's like just getting older and realizing that the sport has changed, but kind of losing its luster, I would say. But there, I think, are two serious candidates for the Heisman Trophy this year. One being Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, who I want to get the stats right. So he has carried the ball 312 times for 2,288 yards and 28 touchdowns, all of which lead the country. He has 338 plays from scrimmage where he's touched the ball, and he has a nation-leading 29 yards from scrimmage. Of course, he plays in a lesser conference than the Power Four, which the other candidate, his name is Travis Hunter. He plays both ways. I couldn't believe that Derek didn't know who Travis Hunter was until I told him the other day, actually. He plays both cornerback and wide receiver. It's not something a lot of people do. It's kind of like college football, Shohei Ohtani. And his stats this year, he has on defense 4 interceptions and 11 passes defended. The latter leads the Big 12. And receiving, he has 92 receptions, which also leads the Big 12, and 14 touchdowns, along with 1,152 yards. The 14 touchdowns lead the Big 12 in receiving. So my question here is, who would you guys go with if those are the two serious candidates? The running back that is dominating, I think that they play in the Mountain West. Let me make sure. They do? Okay, so they play in the Mountain West, or would you rather have the two-way player that plays in Big 12 that everybody is projecting to be the first pick in next spring's NFL draft? Colorado actually sent to every Heisman voter a pull-out folder sort of thing with really fancy glossed-over papers with, like, gold lettering of both
Will you be my bridesmaid?
Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, his son, who plays quarterback. And a lot of people are arguing that if Deion Sanders is lobbying for 2 of his players, one of whom passes the ball to the other to be Heisman contenders, there's one guy that's doing it all himself in Boise State who is kind of the team's whole offense with the way that they're running him. 312 carries in one season is crazy. But who do you guys choose?
Good, Jake.
I guess I'd go with Hunter. He's a two-way player. We don't get those very often. The uniqueness of it, the storyline of it, it makes a lot of sense. He's gonna win it. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we think. He's gonna win it. He's the odds-on favorite. It's not even particularly close. And it's interesting what he's been able to do.
I think back to some of the quarterbacks. I mean, obviously you got guys like Jim Plunkett, who, I mean, we're talking literally over 50 years ago, but guys who won the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback in college who went on to, a successful and sometimes a Hall of Fame career in the NFL. Then you got guys like Jason White from Oklahoma, Danny Warfel from Florida, Charlie Ward, who never even played in the NFL for Florida State. He won it. Gino Torretta, you remember that name, 1992 winner, played at Miami. Guys who contributed nothing on defense. I mean, they just put up video game monster numbers on offense, and they won it. Now you got a guy who is obviously a major contributor on both sides of the ball. I mean, honestly, I didn't know who Travis Hunter was a few days ago until
you got to watch some highlights.
Yeah, but after hearing those numbers, absolutely. I mean, how can you go against a guy that's a major contributor on both sides of the ball? 92 receptions. That's crazy.
I'll tell you how you can. You're a running back. You don't just lead your conference in carries, yards, and touchdowns. You lead the country in all 3 categories. I showed you his highlight tape.
Yes.
With the Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And probably the coolest highlight tape, I think, since Tavon Austin.
What's Boise State's record?
They are actually the team. I don't know the
12
record.
and 1?
They're the team that is the front runner to be the team that's not a Power 4 team in the college football playoff. So he is not only carrying his team, but he's carrying his team possibly the college football playoff.
11 and 1.
And what's Colorado?
Colorado is not making the playoff. I know that. They have at least 2 losses. They didn't even make the conference championship.
Well, I got to go with my who I said
9 and
first.
3.
I'm not gonna go to the other side of the fence. I'm gonna say Hunter just because he's contributed so much. Yeah, but
Ginty's numbers compare very favorably.
There is a running back award that goes. What's that?
Doak Walker. I think.
There you go. He can have the Doak Walker Award. Get his picture.
You really think people care about that trophy?
If you win it,
if you're up for the Heisman, you win that. That's like winning like a.
I think the Heisman's lost a lot of its luster over the years. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
You know who was the last running back to win the Heisman?
I actually pulled that up. It was Derrick Henry in 2015, and his numbers compare very favorably to Derrick Henry's that season. And you figure Derrick Henry had NFL linemen blocking for him.
I want to watch on replay 100 times Cooper DeJean picking up Derrick Henry and planting him into the ground. I saw that play on Sunday, and I just about lost my mind. And I was in the office, and so I had to keep my cool a little bit here, and I was just like, whoa, that was crazy.
I talk about that like being in the press box at Steelers games and something big happens and I have to like contain my excitement. It sucks. Like George Pickens makes an otherworldly catch and you're like, wow. So you can say, you can't be like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, you can express.
Makes a 40-yard catch and then gets penalized 15 yards for unsportsmanlike conduct like every single time.
What is wrong with him?
I don't know. It's like
I keep hearing him described as a weird player, and honestly, it's like the best description I can think of.
He's an immense talent, but I just feel like he's on the verge of just like completely going ballistic one game where he starts, just slapping people.
He already fought a guy after a game. That happened already. So there's not much else he can do.
He's so weird.
I'd rather have a head case that can make gigantic catches than not. But we're off topic now. So
we've been off topic all day.
Trivia time.
What's your record? It's 8-7 now.
It's 8-7 now.
Or is it 8-7? Sorry. This is what, the second time you've been above 500?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing me down, Jake.
Oh, that's a good thing.
8-7.
I should have been above 500 the whole time. I'm the master.
You're fighting towards the playoffs here. you want to have at least 10 wins.
Yeah, that should be
playoffs.
changed. I didn't change it because you guys said you don't even look at that anymore. So
I keep it up here. I know what it is.
I look at that part. We weren't looking at the
I didn't.
predictions
Yeah.
that season's over.
All right. What's the question?
Oh.
I like how you're like dancing with the microphone at the boom. You're like,
It's the most I've seen. It's the most happy I've seen him in 2 days.
yeah. That's a genuine smile. We're happy for you, man.
I was smiling when I was around Bailey last night, okay? I was.
Aw.
Listen, we don't need to know what you do in your personal time.
We
okay?
played Fortnite together.
He tells us a lot of personal
I'm sure
time
you
stuff.
did play Fortnite.
I didn't
Okay,
say
so
I didn't say anything personal. Who is a player in NFL history, Derek, with the most games with at least 3 receiving touchdowns?
I could go with one of the more current guys, but I'm going to go kind of old school. I'm going to say Steve Largent.
what? That's
Right era.
not it.
You should know,
You
Derek.
got
Right
the
era.
trombone sound.
Is that right there?
Any receiving record you
Jerry
should
Rice.
know is Jerry Rice's.
See, I was too
I
obvious
figured
for
I'd
me.
throw up a nice lob.
Oh,
I'd throw
man.
it up and I'd like
See,
I'd let Derek.
Yeah, that's
swing
the thing.
for the
It
fences.
seemed like a lob. I thought of Jerry Rice. I'm like, he would not ask me a question where Jerry Rice was the answer.
I pump faked him.
It's like, Derek, what's 2 + 2? I don't know.
I thought it would be one of those. Is like Jerry Rice has the record for most 2 touchdown games, and it's like 100 of them. But 3 touchdowns, it's just this random like Terry McLaurin.
I'll read
8
it
and 8. I'm like Penn State football. I'm mediocre.
Jerry Rice had 11 of those games.
Wow.
Marvin Harrison and Randy Moss are both tied for second with 9, which is understandable.
Wow.
Don Hudson was 7th. Let's see how far down
Don
you have to
Hudson.
go to get to Steve Largent.
Wow. Don Hudson played from 35 to 45. That's
Steve Largent had 3 such games, which would tie him for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. Andre Rison is also tied for 7th.
Andre
thanks.
Rison.
All right. We'll get back to you next week. Thanks.
I knew I had to throw a soft one to them this week. I knew I was
it-
making him work too hard.
You were throwing fastballs. You
That's
just pumped
it.
the change up right down the middle of the
Change up,
plate,
right
and he just whiffed.
And it's like this basketball coming toward me. I like swing and don't even get a piece of it.
I won something this week.
Hey, you won Sunday too. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
You
things
won
are
Sunday.
looking up.
The winning streak starts now, Derek.
Okay.
You don't know if I'm going to throw
Well, it
a
started
change
with the
up
Steelers.
fastball now. So
Only 2 pitches he's got, but he doesn't know what he's going to throw.
All right. Let's get off the topic of my humiliation. I can't even talk now. All right. We're all professional sports fans here. Jake, you pretend to be at least. Anyway,
I was going to say Brendan does.
think back to when, he does. Steelers didn't matter to him at all last week.
Yeah, he's
Think-
all,
Think
Ohio
back to when
State,
you became
Michigan.
attached to the pro teams you currently root for. Was it simply your proximity to those teams, or was there somebody in your life, a group of people, family members who helped you form an attachment to that team? Brendan, first of all, give us your pro teams that you root for.
Steelers, the Pirates, the Penguins, and basketball is LeBron James.
Okay, well, leave
didn't
LeBron
expect
out
that
of
one.
this. We're talking teams here. So, how did you become? When can you remember becoming fans of those teams? Who influenced you in becoming a black and gold fan?
So when I became a football fan, I was more so I liked the Titans uniforms. I liked the Rams uniforms. So when I was younger, like young, I liked them. But when the Steelers made their Super Bowl 40 run, Super Bowl 40 run, I know I was just like 7 years old, but I had an odd feeling that even when they were like had to win all those games just to get in the playoffs, I had an odd feeling. I was like, the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl. I just felt like the Steelers were going to win the Super Bowl. Then they did. So
if you were older, you could have put money on it.
yeah, but I would say that Steelers Super Bowl 40 run really solidified like me being a Steelers fan. Not because they were winning, just because like it was a fun experience. Like elementary schools are doing like they have the fun song Palamalu, like that, all that. So it made it fun.
Forgot
Like,
about that.
Yeah,
actually. Holy
you go
crap.
around and it seems like everyone's excited about the Steelers. So how can you not get excited about the Steelers? The Penguins and the Pirates came later. I didn't really become a baseball fan. I remember we went to PNC Park on a field trip in 3rd grade, and I was like, cool. Like, who cares? We went up to the press box, and they're like giving us like Freddie Sanchez cards and stuff. I was like, I don't know who this guy is now.
You won a batting title.
I don't care.
So
Like,
you never saw Three River Stadium.
as a baby, my parents brought me to Pirates games there, but I don't remember them.
Oh,
As a baby.
Yeah,
baby
Oh.
Brendan.
Pirates and Penguins came later for me. To sum it up, yeah, like Pirates, I started caring about. I'd say 2012, whenever they started playing well. I started like my whole like caring about baseball came when I started playing Little League too. It's like I'm playing baseball, I might as well learn about like history of baseball. I read like a bunch of books from the library. Started
So
following
studious.
Yeah, then the Penguins I was a loosely a fan of. And then I started like watching more as the years went on, like 2013, 2014, when they kept failing in the playoffs. And it's like, man, they're just never going to win a Stanley Cup. But the Winter Classic was what made me a real fan of the Penguins, because everyone hyped that up, and I was like, might as well watch. And then Crosby got hurt, and there's a storyline to watch after that. So,
Jake, you're a fan of all Philadelphia things when it comes to pro sports. Give us the Cliff Notes version of how you became Philadelphia. Was it simply the proximity to where you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, the Cliff Notes was my parents watched Phillies and Eagles games because that's what you could get on TV, and I watched Phillies and Eagles games because they were watching Phillies and Eagles games, and so that was it.
Sixers and Flyers, though, too, right?
They were never hockey fans, so like I rooted for the Flyers because they were Philadelphia, and I rooted for every other Philadelphia team, but it wasn't until college where I got a little bit more into it because roommates were more hockey fans than I was around. Sixers we got into more during that run with AI in the early 2000s. Like, again, always rooted for them, but my parents' house was baseball, football, so those are the two sports I've always followed much more closely.
When it comes to baseball, it's pretty simple. for me, my dad took me to my first Pirate game in August of 1987. It was against the Astros with Nolan Ryan pitching.
That was actually my first team, according to my mom, because she said that I liked the star on their hat.
Oh.
That was like infant me liked the Astros originally.
This is, of course, back when they were in the NL where they belong. But anyway, I remember that the Pirates won the game that night. This was in late August of 87. I can't remember the final score, but I do remember.
He doesn't remember something. Wow.
Mike LaValliere. He was a catcher. They called him Spanky. He hit a home run that night. And Mike LaValliere, he played in the major leagues for a good, I'd say 10, 11 years. And I think he may have hit like 15 home runs his whole career. But one of them was that night, and he hit it for me because I know it. And they beat Nolan Ryan that night. So anyway, that was kind of the beginning of my Pirates fandom. So I was definitely a fan. By the time they made the playoffs in 1990, I was all aboard with the Pirates, and they lost that year in the playoffs. They lost in 91 in the playoffs. They lost in 92 in the playoffs. Ripped my heart out. Anyway, when it comes to the Steelers, it was literally a family thing. There's pictures, and we have photo albums at home of my family getting together for the Super Bowls the Steelers played in the 70s. And there's, my cousin and my aunt and my grandparents and my mom and my dad, and they're all sitting there. And I can remember being in front of the TV watching a Steeler game. This is the farthest back I can go, is the opener in '83, which was, and that's cool because the Steelers hosted the Broncos, and that was John Elway's first ever game. Steelers lost that game 14-10. But after that, it was just, so many memories of watching Steelers on Sundays in my grandparents' living room, and my grandpa swearing at the TV and calling players' names that I can't mention on here. But literally, it's literally since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I can remember watching the Steelers and kind of. To this day, I can admit this, and Brendan, I know you feel the same way. If the Steelers lose, it literally does. It puts a damper on the day. If they win, it's like okay, maybe the house burns down, but at least the Steelers won.
I think this is the most wistful and teary-eyed I've seen Derek. Just like he's talking about the '70s teams and being a baby with his parents, and he's just like starting to go.
But it's literally lifelong. I don't miss games unless I absolutely have to. I remember one time I didn't want to graduate. My college graduation was on the same day as a December Saturday afternoon game in 2000.
Oh, you were a fall graduation.
Yeah, I graduated from Clarion in December of 2000. It was the same day the Steelers were playing the Redskins, the last game at Three River Stadium. And the only reason I ended up going to my graduation that day is because I figured my parents helped me, obviously, financially and emotionally and all that stuff. They saw me grow up. They wanted to see me graduate. They wanted to see the cap and gown and all that stuff. That's why I went to graduation that day. If it was up to me, I would have been in my apartment watching the Steelers beat the Redskins 24-3 at Three Rivers. That's it.
Oh, man.
That's it. You honestly, you hear people say they're hardcore fans.
Mm-hmm.
But, did you see the game on Sunday? Oh, no, I was out at Walmart shopping for Swedish fish. No. You're hardcore. You're watching the game.
Swedish fish. We would like you as a sponsor, Swedish Fish.
Oh, the red ones. It has to be the red ones.
Well, why is there any other color? I don't understand that.
I don't know.
They
They're dumb.
Why are we trying to fix
this is
things
not how
that
you get a
aren't broken?
sponsorship. This is not how
But
you get a
how are
sponsorship.
you trying to fix things that aren't broken? Like that's what they're red Swedish fish, and that's just what they were.
Got rid of the blue Scooby-Doo fruit snack, so ever since then.
And Brendan's lost his pile up again.
You want some blue? I want a blue.
But they're blue like Michigan.
Light blue.
Ooh.
Same.
Oh.
So UNC.
I will say I went to Michigan and wore Ohio
I mean,
State
I would think
stuff,
you'd
and
want
no
the
one ever
red.
said anything to me.
I do want to clear. He might hate Michigan's football team, but he loves the state in general. He's been on vacation there. He loves it up there.
Yeah.
They treated my
The
grandma
whole
well.
thing.
They treated my grandma well. So
See?
The whole thing.
yeah, if you wear Ohio State stuff, they're too afraid to say anything. So
Not now.
We will get you through this week, Brendan.
That's how Brennan says he's done.
Well, Derek,
Well, Jake
it was a
did
good
refer
show.
to him as a third wheel a few weeks ago, so we don't need him.
What am I going to do with you guys?
Well, we got basketball games to cover this
You
week.
love us, Laura. You know it.
I do. Don't leave yet. I want to talk about something. Okay. Bye.
We're good. Alter Eagles Ion Sports Podcast would like to thank our sponsors, Robert Stevens Jewelers. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel, Apple or Spotify podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.